In 1989, Nintendo released the Game Boy, a console that let people play their video games on the go. It wasn't the first to do so, but it was certainly more popular than all previous attempts.
They said it wasn't humanly possible, but now you can have all the power and excitement of Nintendo right in the palm of your hand. Introducing Game Boy.
It became one of the best-selling consoles ever, having sold over 118 million units. But it wouldn't have gotten that far were it not for the success of two of its launch titles. One was Tetris, the popular puzzle game packaged with the Game Boy in the West, and the other was a Mario game. It was a fairly simple game, but that's all that was needed to show off the Game Boy's potential. It's Super Mario Land, tonight on Gaming Delight. Super Mario Land was released along with the Game Boy on April 21st, 1989 in Japan, July 31st, 1989 in North America, and September 28, 1990 in Europe. In the game, Princess Daisy of Sarasaland has been kidnapped by Tatanga, an evil space alien, who has hypnotized Sarasaland's inhabitants. It's up to Mario to rescue the princess and save Sarasaland. Now, except for Mario himself, almost nothing from the Mario series carries over to this game. There are super mushrooms to make him bigger, and super stars to make him temporarily invincible, but because of the lack of colors, some items were changed. The fire flower is replaced with a super ball flower, letting Mario fire a projectile at enemies. What actually distinguishes its abilities from that of the fire flower is that the super ball flower's projectile can also collect coins. You don't get that often in the Mario series. The green mushrooms that give extra lives are replaced with hearts. There are 4 worlds with 3 stages apiece. World 1 is Birabuto, based on ancient Egypt, with all the pyramids and sphinxes. World 1-1 is pretty much your basic starting level to show off what the game is capable of. New enemies, or rather, different versions of old enemies, appear. Goombos are Sarasaland's Goombas. Bombshell Koopas explode upon getting stomped on, and there's also flies, which closely resemble the fighter flies from the original Mario Bros. Arcade game. There's also the Bum Bum Bees, only appearing in World 1-2. The Gao are half Sphinx and half Lion, shooting fireball projectiles. The boss of this kingdom is King Totometsu, basically a giant version of the Gao, but he actually breathes fire and hovers up and down. In order to beat him, you need to touch the switch near the gate behind him, or shoot him with the Super Ball 5 times. World 2 is Muda Kingdom, an ocean-themed world based on the Bermuda Triangle, a zone in the Atlantic Ocean known for its urban legends, which claim ships, aircrafts, and their crews and passengers had disappeared without a trace for centuries. But that's not the case with Muda Kingdom. In this kingdom, to complement enemies from previous stages, you get Pakun flowers, Sarasaland's piranha plants, the seahorse-like Yororine boos, Honen, skeleton-like fish, and in World 2-3, there's the squid-like Gunyon, the carnivorous Torion fish, and the Yororine, smaller versions of the aforementioned Yororine boos. World 2-3, by the way, is a shoot-'em-up level, where Mario shoots torpedo projectiles from the Marine Pop submarine. These projectiles can't collect coins, but they can smash blocks open. The boss of this kingdom is Dragon Zamasu, basically a giant Yororine boo. Accompanying him is the circular seahorse egg-like Tamao, which is immune to the torpedoes. The only way to get rid of it is to beat Dragon Zamasu by shooting him with the torpedoes or by touching the gate switch behind him. World 3 is Eastern Kingdom, based on Easter Island. You can tell by the Moai statues in the background and the enemies that resemble them. Tokotokos, Batadons, spider-like Susan Kumos, and Ganchan boulders. These boulders are indestructible, but they can also be taken for a ride over spiky terrain. The boss of this world is Hyoihoi, an evolved Tokotoko with legs and armbands. He tosses Ganchan boulders, and you need to beat him with either 10 super balls or by touching the gate switch behind him. Climbing up the boulders may be beneficial to do so. The 4th and final world is Chai Kingdom, based on the mythical feudal China. The music in this kingdom has a Far East feel to it. Among the new enemies, Pyompi, based on the Jiangshi, a mythical vampire from Chinese folklore. These hopping vampires can't be killed by anything but super balls. Stomping on them only temporarily immobilizes them. The Pompon Flowers are basically a combination of the Panzers from the Western Mario 2 and the Lava Lotuses from Mario 3. You can also find the Sarasaland counterpart of the Rotodiscs from Mario 3. There's also the fire-breathing snakes known as Nyololin. The final stage is another shmup level, except this time, Mario is riding his Sky Pop airplane. It has the same abilities as the Marine Pop, but beware of the robotic Chikakos, the Rocketons, the Bullet Biffs, the Rotodiscs, the Pipe Fists, and the Chickens. The boss at the end of this stage is Byokenton, a cowardly being hiding behind a cloud. Even to this day, we still don't know what he really looks like. It's even more of a mystery than Charlie in Charlie's Angels. Anyway, Byokenton bombards you with chickens, and it's up to you to shoot the chickens down and shoot him 20 times to beat him. Once he's out of the way, Tatanga pops up in his Pogosu robot, and the final battle for Sarasaland begins. The Pogosu rapidly shoots 3 projectiles at a time, and you must dodge them. Shoot Tatanga 25 times and the Pogosu explodes. Tatanga is banished from Sarasaland, Princess Daisy and her kingdom are saved, and Mario takes her for a well-earned flight around Sarasaland. Now the ending theme. Hirokazu Tanaka really did an excellent job in composing it. It's one of the best ever made for the Game Boy. Now, once you beat the game, you get to play a hard mode, which is pretty much the same, except there's more enemies in the levels. Even some enemies that didn't originally appear in those levels appear in the hard mode version. Once you beat the hard mode, you can start again from any level you desire. Fun fact, Shigeru Miyamoto had no involvement in the development of Super Mario Land, a first for the series. He had his hands full with the upcoming Super Famicom/Super Nintendo and 2 games for it, Super Mario World and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Gunpei Yokoi and his team at Research and Development 1, the people behind the development of the Game Boy, worked on this game, as well as all the other launch titles. Thankfully, Yokoi knew all the ins and outs of the Mario series, having worked on Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., Mario Bros., and Wrecking Crew. And yes, Wrecking Crew is part of the Mario series. In addition, Super Mario Land was originally intended to be the pack-in title for the Game Boy, but with advice from Bulletproof Software's Hank Rogers, Nintendo decided on Tetris instead. Something else of note, Super Mario Land actually outsold Super Mario Bros. 3. Seriously, Mario 3 sold 17 million copies on the NES. Super Mario Land sold 18 million on the Game Boy. It being a launch title, that makes sense. Reviews were also glowing. Computer and Video Games Magazine gave it a score of 93%, Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a score of 31 out of 40, and Meme Machines scored it 90%, and Famitsu an average score of 6.5 out of 10. 3 reviewers in Famitsu, however, weren't very excited about the game's graphics, considering the monochromatic limitations of the Game Boy. But one of them felt that even though the game was short, it was for the best on account of the Game Boy's nature. Super Mario Land's success led to a lasting legacy. In addition to the obvious merchandising, there was also a song by the Ambassadors of Funk in 1992, which made the top 10 singles charts in the United Kingdom. Simon Harris, the group's producer and the guy who wrote and produced the song, had grown attached to the theme music after a friend introduced him to the game. Hacks and homebrews of the game also came out. The Game Boy Color hack, known as Super Mario Land DX, gives everything their proper colors and adds Luigi as a playable character. A Super Nintendo homebrew known as New Super Mario Land uses the art style from New Super Mario Bros. On the DS. But in my opinion, the original version always makes me feel nostalgic. Super Mario Land was one of the first games I owned for the Game Boy. In 1993, when I was 5, I got my Game Boy, along with Tetris and a copy of Super Mario Land. The two games were the ones I played most in my childhood. What's more, when I got the Super Game Boy, the first game I played on it was Super Mario Land. The game may be short with only 12 levels, and even getting past the hard mode can be a quick job. But considering it was a launch title for the Game Boy, who could blame R&D 1? They did their best, and it paid off in a big way for both the Game Boy and Nintendo. And the success would lead to 2 sequels for the Game Boy and new major characters in the Mario franchise. If Super Mario Land hadn't taken off, characters like Daisy, Wario, and Waluigi wouldn't exist today. But we'll talk about the sequels in future reviews. And tune in next time for my review on the big one, Super Mario World. Thanks again for watching Gaming Delight. Until next time, happy gaming!